Hello, I'm Nadine Blaney. Welcome to Media Week. Ahead on the program, we will round up reporting season for the media players, including APN News and Media, posting a half-year loss, but pretty upbeat on the outlook for radio. Plus, we'll talk where to from here ahead of this week's Future Forum. Is the future for print as grim as many have predicted? Well, News Corp, for one, says it is still committed to the medium. Our co-host, James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, of course, is here to take us through all of those stories and more. But first, with Parliament returning this week, media laws are firmly back in focus. Key industry players continue to push for reform. Among them is Astra Chief Executive Officer Andrew Maiden, who joins us after some intense lobbying, perhaps in Canberra in recent days. As a subscription TV sector trade organisation chief, Andrew's responsible for Astra's overall strategic direction, so he leads projects to represent the sector, advocate for policy reforms, promote subscription television. Well, maybe I should just ask you this all myself, and develop industry and its members. So it's a pretty busy time, and we have the Astra conference, of course, next week. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here again.
It's been a pretty busy time for you. So the media reform bill was tabled in Parliament today. Safe to say it has been a very glacial pace of, any sort of news coming on this front. Are you holding out hopes that this is the start of a big change?
Well, this is Groundhog Day in a sense. We've been debating this now for several years, and again, before Parliament, are proposals to reform the rule restricting audience reach and cross-media ownership rules. And those changes seem to make sense on the face of it because they are pre-internet era rules. But our view is that if that is the problem, there is a lot more that Parliament should be doing to unlock jobs and growth in the sector.
So we are under the impression, though, that Labor is not prepared to, I guess, come to the party when it comes to scrapping the 2 out of 3 cross-metership ownership rule. So is that what you're hearing?
Well, it remains to be seen what the Labor Party will do. I think Michelle Rowland, the new Shadow Minister, is taking a principles-based approach to the issue. So I think she genuinely does have an open mind. But I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the day the government has a choice between pulling the bill or separating the measures.
Andrew, we understand that your key concern is perhaps the anti-siphoning. Is that right? And what are the chances of that being attached to any of the existing proposals?
Well, we actually think that there's a lot more than even anti-siphoning that needs to be addressed if Parliament genuinely wants to reform media laws. Not only is it cross and reach, but if licence fees are to be reduced in the way the free-to-airs want, then maybe...
Seems likely.
Well, it's possible. The government perhaps should also look at the way that free TV is given taxpayer-funded spectrum. So there's some kind of trade-off there. And ultimately, we take the view that because all of these issues are linked to the same legislation, there ought to be a holistic approach to reform. You can't just year after year deliver one tranche of benefit after another to one part of the industry and call that media reform. You know, the objective of media reform is not to entrench particular incumbents or to compensate them for revenue they might be losing in the competitive market. The objective of media reform is to unlock growth, to create jobs in Australia and to allow all Australian media companies to participate in what is becoming a very fast-growing global sector.
And the competition is coming from right around the world at all. I'm just trying to get a sort of sense of where we're at in this conversation then in Canberra. I mean, if you have the likes of Nick Xenophon calling for a cut in licensing fees and then linking that directly to some restrictions potentially being placed on gambling ads on free-to-air. I mean, is it all getting too complicated, and that's why you're discussing or you're flagging the fact that we'll likely see this sort of divvied up?
Well, it's always complicated, and just because everyone is putting on the table in the first week of Parliament their ambit claims doesn't mean that things will have to be solved quickly. I think it'll take weeks, if not months, to be sorted out. I take the view that if the government sincerely wants to create jobs and growth and unlock innovation in this sector, it ought to be trying to do as much reform as possible and not piecemeal reform that just ends up locking in old broadcast models and entrenching the privileges that certain players already have.
Let's say hypothetically we do see these media reform laws passed, however that happens and whenever it happens. How fast after that do you see the media landscape dramatically changing here in Australia?
Well, just because the laws change doesn't mean that, the commercial situation will dictate that there need to be mergers, for instance. I would love, though, to never have to come and talk to you about media reform again. And in a sense, we're debating 1990s issues because the laws of the land are still written in 1992 language. So, to pick an example, anti-siphoning bans Foxtel from buying certain listed sports, but it doesn't ban over-the-top providers from doing the same thing. And you saw a recent case of that when Channel 7 provided a lot of its Olympics coverage on a paid basis to consumers. And it can do that because the anti-siphoning scheme does not guarantee Australians that they will see sport live and free. And perhaps if that is the government's intention, then the law ought to be changed to oblige content to be offered live and free and not over the top on a charged basis.
So we're all agreed nothing's going to happen for a while.
So let's change the topic, shall we? What about the ASTRA conference next week?
It's a big one. We've got more speakers than ever before, 47 people on 12 panels, and we're looking forward to visiting British science presenter Michael Mosley, who's coming out, and we're going to be looking in depth at some of the genres on subscription TV and making the case that we actually are leading the world in the depth and quality of our broadcasts, especially in areas like sport and news and increasingly in drama and lifestyle too.
There seems to be concern among some of your members, particularly about the future of the linear TV services. We've seen Netflix come in, be fantastically successful. Stan seems to be building a very strong local business. Are your members worried that will impact on them, and how far into the future, and what are they doing about it?
Well, I think the first point to make is that live and linear is still overwhelmingly dominant. 6 out of 7 hours watched on TV are watched in that form. So we're not blind to the changes that are going on, but you've got to keep them in perspective. And you mentioned those new entrants who are very welcome in Australia, but they kind of make the argument for us. You have these new entrants who are not investing in jobs or local content and have no reason to, operating in a fairly unregulated way, and you have both free and pay TV creating jobs and investing in local content operating under costly 1990s style laws.
Yeah, so like Netflix, for example, doesn't need any Aussie content, but all these other people that hands tied behind the back and doing the right thing. But
and look, just to be clear, we're not arguing that those new entrants should be shackled in the way that we are. We're just saying, given the way the world is changing, we ought to be regulated more like them.
And you represent Foxtel's, I guess, your biggest member, I suppose. 2 partners there, Telstra and News Corp. Are they sort of the one voice on changes? Because there's been speculation about the future of their partnership. Hasn't been much written about it for a little while. Anything to report there?
Well, they have predominantly the same interests, not always. Telstra sees itself as having distinct interests as an ISP, for instance, and Foxtel as a content provider. By and large, though, they agree on most things, as do the 20-odd independent channel groups who are also members of ASTRA, companies like BBC and Discovery and Nat Geo.
And perhaps more important than ever for Telstra, their content play at the moment, when you see people like Optus getting in with and getting into the content business as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and the recent EPL acquisition by Optus makes the point that, the commercial case for companies to buy listed rights and sell them over the top in contravention or, taking advantage of the anti-siphoning laws. We're getting closer and closer to the day where, for instance, the Melbourne Cup is purchased by a digital company and streamed over the top, and Australians charged to see who wins.
Well, disruption of the television industry, no doubt a key theme at the ASTRA conference. We look forward to it. Thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Andrew Maiden there, he is the CEO of ASTRA. Well, we have to take a short break. When we return, the future of the media sector in focus again as News Media Works annual forum this week. The Future Forum is up. We'll hear from News Corp's Michael Miller on the future of print next.
The average traveller visits loads of different websites before booking their hotel. That's fair enough. You want to make sure you get a great hotel for the best price. There are so many websites out there, how can you visit them all? Well, before you book, check on Trivago. Trivago instantly compares prices from more than 250 websites and apps. And that's how Trivago finds your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
All day at the shop, then a night of Baz, wages, creditors, and reconciling the bank accounts. I can't remember the last time I made it home in time for dinner with the kids.
Give us your books and we'll give you back your life.
I'm behind on invoicing and my husband's suppliers are chasing him for payments. There has to be a better way to manage our accounts.
So give us your books and we'll give you back your life.
Are you struggling to balance the bookkeeping side of your business? Call First Class Accounts now. Our professional national network of qualified bookkeepers can take the stress away by expertly managing your bookkeeping in as little as a couple of hours a week. We can come to you, and the first consultation is completely free. Let First Class Accounts look after your books so you can focus on what you do best, running your business.
So give us your books and we'll give you back your life.
Call First Class Accounts now or visit firstclassaccounts.com for your free consultation.
The Audi A3 Runout is now on. Purchase the Audi A3 Sportback with style and technic packages. From only $41,000 drive away. The Audi A3 Runout. Timing is everything.
Welcome to QuickBooks Online from Intuit. Manage your small business finances with it. It's easy to create an instant invoice and even capture receipts. It's easy to track sales, expenses, BAS and GST. Get started with QuickBooks Online today from just $15 a month.
Get these big boys' toys for Father's Day at Repco. Oricom UHF-CB radio pack, only $179. That's a great gift. Armour All Total Cleaning Car Care Kit, just $19.99. Repco's Father's Day catalogue, out now.
He's a husband. He's a father. He's a sailor, but more of a novice sailor, as it turns out. He's a survivor, and he doesn't bank with Westpac. Not all Australians are with Westpac, but we're with all Australians. Why? Because we're proud supporters of you.
It's Save the Koala Month, and Australia's top koala lover is coming in to help me figure out how to save the one in my yard. Plus, let's have a Save the Government Month. It's already fighting for its life. On the next Bolt Report, only Sky News Live.
Welcome back to the program. Well, News Media Works' annual Future Forum is on in Sydney tomorrow, and it's all about really what the name implies, the opportunities and the challenges facing the media industry and just how business models are evolving. So, James, you are heading to the Future Forum tomorrow, and print will obviously be a big item of discussion because, you know, as we've talked about many times on this program, future's looking pretty dire in a lot of ways.
Sure, yeah, and we've spoken to Greg Highwood earlier this year on the show, and he talked about, you know, that will they be turning the tap off on their weekday papers? That seems that's going to happen. Just sure when. I mean, people keep thinking it's very imminent, but Fairfax, I think, taking a long view. It's not going to happen overnight.
But you were at the News Corp up front last week. Now, News Corp is quite vocal in their support of print and often talking up the performance of the Australian. And you were speaking with the executive chair of Australasia, I believe. Yeah, Michael Miller. We spoke to him after the event. It was Come Together. It's called their annual upfront, and he talked a little bit about the commitment to print. And Robert Thompson, their chief executive, was out here recently, and he told us about, you know, what their plans are. And so Michael Miller began the conversation that you had with him by, I guess, addressing that Stellar magazine. That's their new Sunday insert. Let's take a listen.
This is a magazine which will be the largest magazine existing in Sunday style. But when it goes to Stellar, it's a confidence that we've got not just in print, it's a confidence we have in magazines. It's also a confidence in the Queensland market. And to be able to provide a 3-cap city East Coast buy to Stellar is like a huge investment, but one which we're confident which will not just pay off in terms of advertising, but also in terms of audience. We've recently announced we're in a process with the ACCC around the potential acquisition of the ARM titles. You know, again, it's a vote of confidence in Queensland, and also a vote of confidence in print. And that, when it makes sense, that we'll continue to invest in those assets which we believe offer a very long tail and still represent the communities in a unique way that no other media is yet showing they're able to do.
You've got a lot of the senior media buyers, the heads of agencies here tonight. Some of them come on Sky Business and say, yes, look, we still support print. The numbers don't always sort of match what they tell us. But we've had someone saying, look, we're holding our print budget, it's not dropping, it's remaining flat. Are you getting any feedback that, there is some of that move out of the sector has eased off a little?
Yeah, I think the category, and I talk media category now, is definitely got some challenges. We've, as an industry with Fairfax and WAN and APN, released the News Media Index as a new way of showing that the direct spend is actually holding up very well. And so rather than the double digit perceptions that are in the market, the reality is it's low single digits in terms of the challenge, and we've got to make up that gap. But that's also a challenge now that not just print is showing, but also other media.
Yeah. And just finally, maybe the digital sales, like paywall stuff like that. We're all still learning, I guess, as we go along. But what sort of progress are you making?
We are probably soon to announce our latest figures, but they are we're very happy, and these are grown over 40% in the past year. Mm-hmm. And that I think I'm really encouraged by the trends internationally, that more and more people are paying for quality content, unique quality content. I think we see that in our Foxtel business and in terms of their subs growth, and we're also seeing it in our print subs growth. And so I think Australians in the past 2 years have understood that if they want quality content, they're going to have to pay for it. And I think that's a good thing for newspapers and other parts of the market.
So that is the Executive Chair of News Corp Australasia. They're speaking with my guest host here, James Manning, last week. So you will be at the Future Forum tomorrow.
Yep.
So what are the sort of, panels that you'd be really interested in listening into?
Yeah, look, the CEO Forum used to be the big draw card, but there used to be 4 CEOs of the major newspapers, and there was only 3 because APN News and Media sold its newspapers to News Corp.
Zero exposure.
Yeah, and Chris Wharton's going to be on a video link from Perth, so he's not going to be there. Michael Miller we've just had on, and Greg Highwood we had earlier in the year, so I'm not expecting massive things from that, but the big interesting thing is some of the international visitors.
Yeah.
Will Lewis, the head of Dow Jones, the chief executive, he's also the publisher of the Wall Street Journal, held up as one of the real models of success in the sector, so he'll be talking there. We're getting some guys from Canada there about some business models that they're having success with, so that's always interesting.
It's too bad that Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, is not going to be there, because he's had some pretty reassuring words, if that's how you choose to read them.
Sort of, isn't it?
Yeah, about talking about how the world will still need publishers. He says that the world needs news companies. There's an important place for news organizations that can deliver smaller bits of news faster and more frequently in pieces, but this won't replace the longer and more researched work. He said that, really vetting takes quite some time when it comes to those longer pieces, so it's really just news being delivered in a different way.
Yeah, emphasising that he doesn't foresee Facebook becoming a content company, which is what lots of people in the old media have been concerned about, because of their distribution systems, Facebook and then indeed Google, if they wanted to get into content, they could really spell trouble.
Oh, yeah, it is already spelling trouble in many ways, right? Okay, let's talk about reporting season. You mentioned there, James, APN News and Media, zero exposure to print now, but it did swing to a loss in the first half as it exited from its traditional publishing assets. The company demerged the New Zealand media entertainment business and is in the process of selling its Australian regional media assets, leading to a net loss of $257 million. But CEO Kieran Davis is upbeat about the outlook for the radio business after re-signing Kyle and Jackie O.
We're in good shape from a rating perspective. We're fighting hard. You're number one, people are coming at you, and that's a good thing, because it's a good thing for radio. And it's a good thing for advertisers too, because we're all working hard to make sure that the briefs and responses we put back in the market are of the best quality, and that is good for radio and radio revenue.
In terms of the radio advertising market, Mr. Davis says that it remains short, as it has been for some time, but says that advertisers are welcoming an integrated approach.
I think what really is driving the revenue and driving the engagement with advertisers is the fact that not only, are all networks providing good radio-based solutions, but we're transferring campaigns into digital environments, mobile environments, social environments, and we're giving a really good, strong, integrated package response to advertisers, and that is resonating very, very well.
Well, Ciaran Davis, as you know, James, we've had on the programme before. He really has made some major moves. He's doing a good job.
It seems to be, it's that real focus. They certainly don't want the radio division to fall over because they're really relying on that now. But as he said, they've secured their talent. They've still got a few challenges in Melbourne, which we've talked about in the past when we look at the radio rating surveys. But they're certainly in a good place in Sydney. Adelaide's come good for them and still a strong, very strong business.
And two of their FM stars, Kyle and Jackie O, of course, nominated for the 2016 ACRA.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And it's, all the big names there, Hamish and Andy, Jonesy and Amanda, Fifi and Dave, the Fox Breakfast Show down in Melbourne, and the AM stars, from particularly 2GB, 3AW and TK and Slats, the guys who do the breakfast show at Sky Sports Radio. It's punters are very familiar with that morning program.
37 days away is that commercial radio's Night of Nights, according to their website.
Yep,
I didn't know that off the top of my head.
Down in Melbourne this year. They've got a countdown clock on.
It'll be a good one. OK, let's talk about, I guess, sticking with some of the results, the out-of-home industry. So we've heard from APN Outdoor, we've heard from O Media, we've heard from, actually, QMS Media as the most recent to report. Interesting that it comes when the out-of-home industry reporting a net revenue of $62 million. That's an increase of 20% for the month of August. That's impressive. Yeah, the staggering is still really growing, isn't it? Year to date, they're up 18%. So, and it's still all that when we talk to any of these guys from the sector, it's all about the digital growth. The demand for digital just continues to grow. The QMS, 88% revenue lift. I mean, that was through a lot of acquisitions that have helped build that, but just staggering numbers, and we expect to still maybe see a little bit more consolidation. APN Outdoor shocked the market a little bit, warned of a bit of a slowing, but it did point to the Olympics. We'll leave that for now. Sure. Beyond International is one of the last media companies to report. Remind us exactly what they're producing. Yep,
two main streams of revenue are their TV production business. They do things like Selling Houses Australia. They made Mythbusters, which has just finished actually in this financial year. So I don't know if they'll have a drag on the numbers for next year without that income. And they're a big distribution business. So they write about $100 million, so it's a reasonably sized business, I guess. Profit of $5 million this year. And just a little one in the last sort of days of the profit reporting, Pacific Star Network, which is an interesting player. They have a SEN, it's the sports AM station down in Melbourne. They've got a little portfolio of magazines as well. They've gone back into the black.
Okay, let's talk about ratings, shall we? This is for week 35, free to air. And taking a look, we've got 7 News Sunday and 9 News Sunday leading the pack there. Zumbo's Just Desserts rating as well. Boy, that was promoted heavily during the Olympics.
It's done moderately well. I think 7 to be happy. You had a few nights where the numbers looked a little bit shaky, but it's come back, and its second week it's done reasonably well. It was the most watched reality show the other night. So yeah, 7 are happy with that. They'd like to see those numbers hold, and the block coming back, filling up the bottom half.
Yeah, the block will be one that we'll be, I'm sure, talking about quite a bit in the weeks to come. Let's get to the subscription television ratings, and of course we will start with sport.
Yep, NRL, AFL, the last weekend of the AFL season there. The NRL's got one more round to go, of course, before their final start.
Okay. I thought there was rugby on. I feel like I've watched rugby lately, but anyways, I mean rugby union. But
Bledisloe Cup game 2. Didn't make the top 5 because I guess people weren't too hopeful of Australia's performance.
It might be a bit depressing, depressing television.
Absolutely.
There's my show, Gogglebox, back up at number 1.
Yep.
They've brought it back.
Yep, doing very well. Second season this year. Yep, still a massive big hit for Lifestyle. And a movie in there too, Fifth Wave, on premiere.
Okay. Some of the news out of television. I think this is an interesting one, James, that Grand Designs Australia and Fremantle Media launching a homewares range. I think that's a pretty good tie-up.
Yeah, again, it's looking for other ways to exploit the brand, getting some, alternative revenue streams to help it along. And look, Grand Designs Australia, fantastic, successful lifestyle, and it should generate a bit of revenue for them off the licensing deal.
You would think so.
I think Maya's the key retail partner, but you're able to get it in other places as well.
I'm sure you'll be able to buy it online as well, you would think. Fox Sports, what's the news around Fox?
Yeah, look, launching a dedicated pop-up channel. I think they've got finals football for the first time after they Nine sold simultaneous broadcast rights to them for this season. So they're launching a dedicated NRL channel next year. So this is a bit of a dry run to test how it will look for the month of September.
It'll be in HD.
Yeah, all games live and in HD, and I think it'll do very well. Expect really strong numbers for it.
And Doctor, so we've got a start date for that 9 drama.
Yeah, look, Aussie dramas, you know, very popular. Coming to 9, Doctor from Essential Media, mid-September, I think it's September 14. The ABC's also got Newton's Law coming with Claudia Carvin and Craig McLachlan, back with Dr Blake Mysteries. It's going to be season 5. They're just starting work on that. So a lot of action in that drama sector.
Absolutely. And talk to us about ABC's Newton Law. Oh, that's
the Claudia Carvin one. Yeah, and this week too, just on that drama thing, the SPA, the Screen Producers Australia, released the nominations for the SPA Awards. So this is awards to all their members who produce all this great drama. Things like the Kettering Incident were nominated. Love Child, Rake, Dr Blake, Wanted and Wentworth, that great drama that Screen.
There is. There's a lot of drama out there. I was speaking to my parents in Canada and they were watching A Place Called Home.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay,
so good to know. James, so you've got a busy agenda. You've got the Future Forum tomorrow. You've got the Astra Conference, and all that coverage will be
covering them both on the channel.
Yeah, on the channel here and also in Media Week online and in print. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That's all we have time for all the team here. Thanks for your company.